Kaspa is a cryptocurrency that is basically trying to position itself as being the next Bitcoin, better than blockchain technology with something like a block deck. We're going to look at the top Kaspa miners. If you got the previous generation of Kaspa miners, honestly, you probably got fucked up on an ROI. Your return on investment was, well, you probably didn't really get a return on investment. However, if you were an early Kaspa miner, you probably made your money back and then some. And if you GPU mined Kaspa before all of that, then your returns could have been astronomical. The latest generation of Kaspa mining rigs are ASIC miners. They're purpose-built custom computers that only mine the Kaspa cryptocurrency, or more specifically, the K heavy hash mining algorithm. They would pay themselves off in about a year. That's a good projected break even, but it's not taking into account several key factors, which I'll explain here shortly. Looking at emissions on all these different cryptocurrencies that are tracked here: Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Kaspa, Litecoin, ETC, Ethereum Classic, Monero, which I should be mining, but I'm not, and I'll explain why on that, Nervos Network, Cadena, Dash, and not everything is even tracked here or tracked properly. But if you look over the price change here in the last week, and if you've been paying any attention, things have picked up tremendously recently, and it's a very welcome relief. Looking at the proof of work produced, or basically emissions on cryptocurrencies here on a different calculator, we'll see a couple other coins pop up here, like ZEC, also known as Ztrash, Alio, and a few other cryptocurrencies like Coin and dreaded Lithium.
Leave me alone!
If you're a subscriber to VoskCoin, which I encourage you to be, shameless plug, you may have noticed or watched a video recently from us on Kaspa mining. And essentially, if you had first generation Kaspa miners or second generation Kaspa miners, which we'll consider that just like the initial releases as Gen 1 and Gen 2 would be things with like KS3 in the name. And then Gen 3, we'll call, at least for today's video, KS5 stuff, and then we have KS7 hardware already. I understand that these KS5Ms and KS5Ls came out just a year ago. I was looking at some old content, and check this out. In this video, I'm talking about making $50 a day with that KS5L. KS5L makes about $50 a day right now, and the KS5M uses the same power and has a higher hash rate. That same miner that costs thousands and thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, potentially, depending on which model you bought and when, at 7.5 cents per kilowatt hour, solid electricity rate, I'm losing 20 cents a day. KS5M earning $1 a day. Honestly, abysmal performance, especially when within a year of the release of this device, that same manufacturer has already increased the efficiency by 2x, right? So the efficiency is your power spend versus your income. And then you look at Bitmain and their KS7, they keep copying each other in names, and it's pissing me off. It's stupid, it's ridiculous. It's a total arms race, and the mining manufacturers are getting filthy rich, and us loser miners that are buying the new shitcoin miner of the week are potentially losing bad. Early Kaspa ASIC miners and of course GPU miners made a lot of money. But if you were later to the party, you felt like it was a Ponzi scheme and you didn't really make all that much. Ironically, right now, the KS7 with the recent KAS pump and its numbers is looking pretty appealing. $20.50 a day, projected $15 after I would account for my electricity bill. And Bitmain is slinging these right now for $8,000 a piece before any coupons. Coin Mining Central, which we are an affiliate with, we do have a link, and more importantly, a code VoskCoin to save some coin, which would get your price under $7,000 per machine at the time of recording this. That actually looks kind of appealing. And again, I'm not pushing the miner on you, and I'm really burnt out with getting the new miner and chasing the new release and things like that. However, if you aren't burnt out, if you don't have that exposure, and you kind of like delete that from your mind, this is a decent time. But what you need to understand is that the Kaspa network hash rate, it's trending upwards with the price increase. Yes, it's pulled back from its all-time high, but that's because of anyone paying attention like me and many others that had the old, less efficient gear. You were burning more in electricity than you were earning in the coins you're mining. At that point, if you're spending $10 to mine $5 of coin, you should just spend $10 to mine the coin. Kaspa essentially halves annually. They also had their crescendo hard fork, dividing the block reward by 10. It makes this even harder to kind of follow, engage, and get a pulse on. But let's look at it this way. Right now, 5 coins a block, and then you go out a couple years, literally just a couple years, 1 coin a block. So that is crazy. Let's just say your miner makes $10 a day, okay? And if nothing changed, which is never really the case in many things, but especially cryptocurrency, in 2 years, you will be mining 20% of that. You will be mining $2 a day. So while you look at the numbers today, you look at the efficiency, you look at the increase, I'm still really turned off by it. Maybe tokens, maybe the coin being used more at that point could be more interesting, could be more engaging. Beep, 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 beep. You are now in tune with Flash FM. Today I'd like to thank the Mining Digest by EMCD for making today's video possible. This is a weekly mining news breakdown focused on digging through the news, key trends, and compiling the right data. For everyone from mining newbies through experienced miners and mining company employees. Market trends, mistakes, avoiding them, hardware overviews, optimizing profits, and real life miner tales. Check out our link to join the free Mining Weekly Digest newsletter by EMCD with the link out in the video description below. For $2,000 less, just say it so casually in mining, you could get the Ice River KS7, but I never would because I can increase my hash rate by 33%, okay? And once you increase this price by 33%, you're nearly at Bitmain's KS7. And it's more efficient, like significantly more efficient. And again, it uses less power, obvious with the efficiency and the hash rate. However, it's much better for me to use less power because then I have more power available. So eventually, let's say I added 10 of these, I would only be able to install, say, 9 of these based on my potential electrical infrastructure. And that's not specific to me, that's just an example, right? And if you're capital heavy and electric light, then those things become more interesting than ever before. If we go back towards the KS5s and some of these other models, they are still very much for sale and pretty cheaply. If you have a super cheap electricity rate or somehow one of these maniacs that gets free power, I don't know where you guys are and how you exist, but it's shocking to me that like the BMKS Max you can order right now for nearly $2,000. But for me, I have mine turned off because it loses me $1 a day. Do you want to buy it? Let me know, I guess. It's not viable for me to run that old gear at my electricity rate. And there's no point to mine and hold. If I'm so bullish on KAS, I should just mine. I would also like to remind you and check out these screenshots for a little more verification. The Ogre cryptocurrency exchange is an absolute scam, and I exposed them for the scam that they are. So they locked my account, stealing, depending when you took the snapshot, $4,000 to $8,000 of Kaspa cryptocurrency. And they reopened withdrawals for a lot of people, but for the simple fact that I exposed them for the scam that they are, they straight up locked my account indefinitely. These guys are trash and you're stupid as f if you use their exchange. You've been warned. To elaborate even further on the Kaspa mining situation, right? I've had a KS3M, the Bitmain KS3, the Ice River KS2, the KS1, the KS5L, KS0, KS0 Pro, KS0 Ultra. I have the KS2 Lite and the BMKS Max. And literally out of all of these, the only miner that I'm still spending electricity on is the KS2 Lite, because it is the only device, when you run the numbers at my electricity rate, that is even worth keeping on. The KS0 Ultra has ticked back into the green, but for 2 cents a day, he can sit there and think about how he can become a little bit more profitable. Capitalizing on the hype of Kaspa, a couple other cryptocurrencies launched with that mining algorithm. Most notably, Bugna. Why are you Bugna-ing me? And Cedra. Both of those cryptocurrency returns pale in comparison compared to the Kaspa mining returns. So if you really did want those, you would ideally just mine Kaspa and then go trade that into those cryptocurrencies and come out nearly $5 or $8 ahead. Depending on their exchange support, it may not be that simple, and you may just go ahead and mine them and hope for the upside. If nothing else, you sure will end up with a lot of coins. The coin quantity doesn't necessarily matter. It's really about how much are those coins worth. For example, do you want 1,000,000 Dogecoin or do you want 1,000,000 Bitcoin? I know which one I want. For me, I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and instead of investing in Kaspa miners, I've been investing more heavily into Bitcoin miners, expanding the Bitcoin farm. I'm thinking about taking an order for a couple more Bitcoin miners to round out a couple shelves and push myself over that 7 petahash mark there. A couple years ago, Kaspa was all the rage because these really powerful, dense devices came out, and you could earn a ton of cash with them. A ton of coin, I should say. Forget cash. Cash is trash, baby. But back then, Kaspa was putting out a lot more coins. There was a lower network hash rate, and the emission was much higher. 1 million, 2 million, towards 3 million. I can't remember offhand how much higher it could have been, but it was significantly higher. And Kaspa's a very high valued coin. A lot of people forget that. It's worth over $3 billion. Whether you love or hate Litecoin is worth 7.6 billion and puts out and has a lower emission in comparison when you take the market caps into consideration here. Monero, $6 billion market cap, putting out 150,000, so twice the market cap, and basically 1/3 of the daily emission. That's a lot of inflation to soak up for a coin that's still struggling to generate true demand. And I'm not trying to sound like a Kaspa hater. I'd love for it to be wildly successful. Make it worth 300 billion. I'm here for it, man. 1, it would make all my old gear really profitable. 2, I have mining farm. I'm set to capitalize on that. But yeah, for me, long term, it's stacking Satoshis, and I'll mine some shit coins along the way. But to be frank, I'm kind of getting burnt out with all the bullshit. Who knows? I'm approaching 10 years in this sector. Maybe I'm old and jaded, or maybe I'm like a wise sage. Let me know which one you think. Come down in the comments below. This is our CIO, our Chief Intel Officer here on the VoskCoin YouTube channel because she's just that freaking cute. How could she not get the position? Again, I'm Vosk. Hope you subscribe, and let me know what you want us to cover next year on the channel. As always, I appreciate you, and I'll see you later.
Shine.